Right, well, welcome to the first Thursday evening breathing buddies of 2025. So yeah, this is the time of year for good intentions, and good intentions can be big, small, broad, narrow. So I'm going to suggest that we have an intention for this evening. Very simple one. Let's try and be as present as we can for the next 20 minutes or so. Let's see if you can leave the day behind. Forget about what you've got to do tomorrow. All that will be waiting for you at the end anyway. So let's just see if we can all be as present as possible for the next 20 minutes. And hopefully some of these exercises will help us get into a state of mind to make that easier. Right, we're going to begin with a nasal congestion clearing exercise. Now this, if you suffer from nasal congestion, you haven't done this before, this can be a bit of a game change. You'll have wished you'd learnt it decades ago. We're going to split this into two groups. Group A is anyone who's in reasonably good health. I'll leave it as simple as that. Group B is anyone who has any sort of more serious health conditions. That might be heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, if you've recently had surgery, if you're pregnant or think you could be pregnant, schizophrenia, panic disorder. Just be sensible. If you're not sure which group to put yourself in, be in Group B. So the instruction for this is I'll explain it first and then we'll have a go. You're going to breathe in through your nose, out through your nose. Then you're going to pinch your nose. When I say pinch your nose, don't squeeze, just block your nose with your fingers. And then nod your head or move side to side. You do some kind of movement. People in Group A, you're going to do this for as long as you possibly can until it's really, really feeling like you need to take another breath. So we're pushing them right into the moderate air hunger. People in Group B, I like you to do the same exercise, but the moment you feel like you need to take a breath, even if it's only after a few seconds, you take a breath in. You breathe in through your nose. If you're feeling congested, and especially if you're in Group A, unfortunately, the effects are not as pronounced if you're in Group B. But if you're in Group A, once you breathe back in through your nose, you should feel some relief. Then we'll have a rest and we'll repeat the exercise. So when you're ready, breathe in through your nose, out through your nose, then pinch your nose, hold your breath and nod your head. You keep going. If you're in Group A, you're going to do this for as long as you can bear to do it. If you're in Group B, the moment you feel like you need to take a breath in, breathe in through your nose. Still got a couple of people going. Hopefully, if you're experiencing any congestion, it feels a little bit clearer. When we do anything like this, we've let carbon dioxide build up in the blood. And the whole point of this exercise is to kind of do it as long as we can within our health, within a healthy range. So we just need to let the carbon dioxide dissipate a little bit, or we won't be able to do it for as long because it's carbon dioxide, it's the buildup of carbon dioxide which is creating the feeling of air hunger. So just take a few normal breaths now. And then when we're ready, we'll have another go. Breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Pinch your nose, nod your head. If nodding your head, if you've got any problems with your neck, just move side to side. The reason we do this, by the way, the nodding, the physical movement isn't doing anything to help with the decongestion. It helps to distract you from the feeling of the air hunger. It's a little bit of exercise. When we do exercise, we're used to feeling a bit out of breath, but just sitting there and holding your breath and not moving can be a little bit stressful, and we don't really want this to be too stressful. We want to be able to do the exercise for as long as possible to get maximum benefit. You can do that as many times as you like each day. As you get better at holding your breath, and you can do this for longer, the effects become more pronounced and they last for longer as well. So get that one in your toolbox. Okay, we're going to do something I often do at the end now, but this is going to be a grounding exercise just to kind of get us into the main body of what we're going to do. So this is the physiological sigh. It's a way of tricking your body in a way. It's a great one to do in the middle of the night if you can't get back to sleep, or just as you're going off to sleep, just to get the body to relax. So the instruction is to take a deep breath in through your nose, then top it up, and then sigh it out. Then just breathe normally a couple of times. And then when you're ready, deep breath in through your nose, top it up, Sigh out. Couple of normal breaths. And one more time. I'm going to breathe in through your nose. Top it up. Sigh it out. Right, let's get into the main body of it now. We're going to start with an exercise called Breathe Light. I'd like you to sit up straight, unsupported, if you can. One hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, just above your navel. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And first of all, just notice how you're breathing right now. You're breathing fast, slow. Does the breathing feel calm, a little bit erratic? Do you feel any tension around the breathing muscles? Which hand is moving most? Is your belly rising and falling? Can you feel any movement in your chest? In your shoulders? So now that you're aware of how you're breathing, I'm going to be a little bit more specific. I'd like you to concentrate now on the feeling of the air as it moves in and out through your nose. Feeling the slightly cooler air as it enters your nostrils. And then the slightly warmer air on the exhalation after it's been conditioned by the nose. Concentrating on the cooler air on the inhalation, slightly warmer air on the exhalation. Okay, now the instruction for this exercise, breathe light, is deceptively simple. It can be a little tricky to get right. I'd like you to breathe a little bit less air. Can you breathe about 70% of the air as you would take in a normal breath? How you choose to do that, there's various ways. You could take a shallower breath. You could slow the breath down. The aim here is to create a little bit, just a little bit of air hunger. So air hunger is the feeling that you'd like to be breathing a little bit more air. So I want you to breathe a little bit less air until you just kind of step up to that line of feeling like you'd like to breathe a little bit more. And then try and remain at that line. Try and walk along that line. If you're feeling like you'd like to breathe a bit more air, this is positive feedback. This means that you're doing the exercise correctly. If you're not quite feeling it yet, see if you can breathe a little bit less air. When we create air hunger, we're allowing carbon dioxide to accumulate in the blood. There's chronic hyperventilation in society, and hyperventilation is a symptom of stress, but it also, like with so much to do with the way we breathe, it is also a source of stress and anxiety. So you can get into a negative feedback loop with hyperventilation. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it. When we hyperventilate, the concentration of CO2 in the blood diminishes. So with this exercise, we are slowly and very gently training the body to adapt to higher concentrations of carbon dioxide. Now, why do we want to do that? Carbon dioxide isn't the waste gas. It isn't a case of oxygen good, carbon dioxide bad. CO2 is essential for respiration. CO2 is the catalyst that allows hemoglobin to release oxygen to tissues and muscles. So by breathing a little bit less air, you actually improve oxygen delivery around the body, including to the brain. CO2 is also a vasodilator. It causes blood vessels to dilate, so you get improved blood flow around the body, including to the brain. And you might also notice your hands and even your feet start to warm up a little bit. So again, can you breathe a little bit less air? Your breathing shouldn't at any point feel erratic. This should be a comfortable amount of air hunger. I like to think of this as surfing the wave of air hunger. You want to catch the wave. You don't want to sit behind the wave. We're not getting the benefit there. You want to catch the wave, but you don't want to get wiped out by the wave. And if your breathing starts to feel erratic, just take a step back, take a few deeper breaths, and then return. So you can use this exercise as a measure of your concentration. For how long can you keep your mind on breathing just a little bit less air than you normally would, on generating a little bit of air hunger? And if you're able to concentrate on that, you're also fulfilling the intention we set to be present with this practice for a little while. I'm going to do this for a little bit longer. If you're unsure as to whether you're feeling the air hunger or not, I invite you now to cover one nostril. You can probably breathe in easier through one than the other. You can pick whichever one you want. Don't change the rate of breathing. And by covering one nostril, we just create a smaller hole for the air to get in. So you should begin to feel the air hunger building up after a little while. See if you can get to the point where even the fine hairs in your nose have stopped moving. To the point where it feels like you're only exchanging the air within your nose, breathing in a couple of centimeters of air. If you're practicing this during the week, you're struggling to find the air hunger, say covering one nostril, and try and get to the point where you're barely moving. If I was in the room with you, I'd say hide your breath from me. Hide the movement, hide the sound. Okay, we'll take a few more breaths here. Now you can let this exercise go and keep your eyes shut if you want. Just rest your hands on your lap. Next we're going to do an exercise called Breathe Deep. So I'd like you to take your hands and rest them on your lower two ribs. If you've done this exercise before and you know what we're doing, then you can just rest your hands in your lap. But if you're new to it or you want a reminder, Hands on your lower two ribs. Now, what I'd like you to do is to take fuller breaths, but fewer of them. So I'd like you to breathe the air deep into the belly. We talk about belly breathing, but it's also very important when we engage the diaphragm that we feel lateral movement. So what we're looking for here with the hands on the ribs is to feel lateral movement of the ribs, moving outwards on the inhalation and inwards on the exhalation. If you have big enough hands to wrap them all the way around your middle, you should also look to be feeling movement out into the back body as well. Inhalation is a 360-degree action. It's not just about pushing the belly out. So we're taking fuller breaths, but fewer of them. When you've got a sense of this feeling of a lateral movement, of the ribs expanding outwards with the inhalation and back in with the exhalation, you can relax your hands onto your lap or wherever you feel comfortable. And just concentrate on taking some deeper breaths, but fewer of them. Now I'd like you to think about the position of your tongue in the mouth. And this is very important, especially for training ourselves to breathe well while we're sleeping. We should be looking to breathe through our noses at rest, at sleep, and during light to moderate exercise. But at sleep, and during sleep can be the tricky time, because obviously we're not consciously aware of what we're doing. So we need to practice during the day so that we can breathe better at night. So the tip of the tongue should be pressing lightly against the retroincisal point. So that is behind your top teeth, not actually on your top teeth. The tongue exerts a lot of pressure and can over time move the teeth, but about a centimetre further up onto the hard palate. The tip of the tongue should be there. Jaw, nice and relaxed. We hold a lot of tension in our jaws. Maybe you need to give it a little bit of a wiggle if you can feel some tension in yours. Want the mouth closed. Teeth should be slightly apart. Tip of the tongue about a centimetre up behind the back teeth. And then the remainder of the tongue, as much as you can, resting against the hard palate. Now, your ability to do this will depend on your own physiology. If you've got a tongue tie, it will be more difficult. If you've got narrow mandibles, upper mandibles, it'll be more difficult. But to the best of your ability, the tip of the tongue behind the upper teeth, and then the rest of the tongue resting as close as it can to the palate. So ideally, when you're sleeping, you'd be breathing deep and slow, jaws relaxed, mouth closed, the tongue's resting against the roof of the mouth. And when that happens, there's less chance of snoring, less chance of sleep apnea. Okay, I'm going to carry on breathing deep. We're now going to practice some breathing slow. So I'm going to count inhalations and exhalations. I'll start off with a 1-to-1 ratio. We'll breathe in for 4 and out for 4. And I'll then change it, so we're going to breathe in for 4, out for 6. So we're going to extend the exhalation. When we extend the exhalation, we stimulate the vagus nerve. The long exhalation helps to stimulate the vagus nerve, sends biofeedback to the brain to say that the body's safe. And then all sorts of great things happen, like heart rate drops, blood pressure drops. So it'll be in for 4, out for 4, then in for 4, out for 6, and a little pause at the end. So we need to get into sync here. So when you're ready, going to exhale, then breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 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 in. and out. Breathe in, out, in, breathe out, in, breathe out, in. Last one, we'll switch it up, and out, 2, 3, 4. Now in, 2, 3, 4. Out for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. Breathe in, out, 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 5, 6. Pause. Breathe in. Now I'd like you to do this at your own pace now. Out. How you choose to do this is over to you. You can keep counting. The goal is to have an exhalation that's longer than the inhalation and a little pause at the end of the exhalation. This should feel comfortable. If it was feeling uncomfortable, you perhaps want to breathe a little bit faster. But if you feel like you could breathe more slowly, then do so. How's that jaw doing? Still feeling relaxed? Is the tongue sitting against the roof of the mouth? The tip above and behind your upper incisors? Now the final piece of the puzzle. As you're doing this, we now want to try and introduce a little bit of air hunger again, or to breathe a bit less air. So can you breathe 70% of the air that you are at the moment, whilst breathing deeply into the belly, feeling the ribs expand, and whilst breathing slowly. So this is now breathing light, slow, and deep. LSD breathing. This isn't something hallucinogenic, but it does create an altered state. How are you feeling now? Is there a feeling tone you can ascribe to your state right now? And how does that compare to when we started the session? Now, we'll be finishing up soon. I think if we can have an intention to take forward into the week, maybe into the year, is to spend a little bit of time each day breathing a little bit less air. Getting the body used to slightly higher concentration of CO2 has a lot of health benefits. It's incredibly good for your mental health and for creating mental stimulation. It improves blood flow to the brain, it improves oxygen delivery to the brain. And if you exercise, the bigger challenge, can you switch to nasal breathing during light to moderate exercise? Okay, so when you're ready, you can drop the exercise, return to breathing however you want to breathe now. Hopefully that's a little bit slower than it was when we started. When you feel ready, open your eyes if you haven't done so. Okay, thanks very much for joining me.